Who is she? The lady.
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know her?
Welcome and good evening to the June 18th, 2019 City of Shakopee City Council meeting. Item number 1, if we could call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Brennan.
Here.
Councilmember Lehman.
Here.
Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
Councilmember Contreras.
Here.
Mayor Mars.
Here, thank you very much. Item 2, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Any changes, Mr. Reynolds?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Nelson is very much a historical person. However, I have convinced him that item 8A1 should be May 2019 and not May 2018. So we're not going to look at May 2018. We're going to actually look at last month.
All right, so noted. Any other changes? If not, Counselor Whiting?
With that adjustment, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion in a couple of seconds by Counselor Brennan, Counselor Contreras. Further discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Number 4, consent business. Any changes, Mr. Reynolds?
No, sir, not from staff.
Others? Others? Counselor Lehman?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second?
I have a motion and a second for the consent agenda with no changes. Before we vote, we would read the consent agenda into the public record. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor Mars and members of council, members of the public. These are the consent agenda items for June 18th of 2019. 4A1 approves the minutes from the June 4th, 2019 meeting. 4A2 authorizes replacement purchases of 2019 computers not to exceed $42,350.96. 4A3 approves the joint powers agreement with Scott County for assessment of the City of Shakopee for the years 2020 to 2022. 4A4 approves suspension of City Code 114.11 to allow consumption of alcohol at the Shakopee American Legion's bike event to be held on June 28th, July 26th, August 30th, and September 27th, 2019, from 7 p.m. to midnight. 4A5 adopts resolution number 2019 TAC 069, which amends the 2019 fee schedule to establish a license category for small brewer tap room and establish a fee of $800 annually. 4B1 approves a project to convert a conference room at the Ice Arena to a dry land training space donated to the city from the Shakopee Youth Hockey Association. 4C1 adopts resolution number 2019 TAC 068, which sets a public hearing date for July 16th of 2019 for a property abatement for KEB America LLC or its affiliates for certain property to be constructed at 5100 Valley Industrial Boulevard South. 4D1 adopts resolution number 2019 TAC 064, which rejects bids for the 2019 Trail Rehabilitation and Trail Reconstruction Project, CIF TAC 19 TAC 004, and PA TAC 19 TAC 01. 4D2 approves the Prior Lake Outlet Channel Memorandum of Agreement. And finally, 4D3 approves suspension of City Code 130.45, which allows the 12th Avenue Reconstruction Project contractors to perform their work from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturdays through the end of November 2019.
Mr. Reynolds, thank you very much for reading that into the public record. I have a motion. I have a second. The consent agenda has been read into the public record. There would be no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you all. Item number 5. Now I'd like to call on any resident that would like to come forward and speak on an item not on the agenda. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and welcome on an item not on the agenda. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Council. Robin Ganeri. Address is 1955 Omega Drive.
Shakopee resident. Also the Shakopee Hockey president. So we thank you guys for allowing us to put a shooting room up into the rink. We're thrilled and enjoyed to get that process going so our kids have a better place to get better in practice. Also, I'd just like to thank the city of Shakopee on how the rink has progressed the last 2 years. We host a lot of events. We travel to a lot of towns across the state, and as the president, I get a lot of phone calls and emails of how great this facility is, and people really enjoy it. And so I want to thank the city of Shakopee and the citizens for doing this process. It's been a great addition for a lot of kids to fulfill their dreams. So on behalf of the Board of Hockey, we thank the board and the citizens.
Very nice. Thank you. I think it's important to have good public-private partnerships and collaboration together, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor
I'd
Whiting?
just like to mention, I'm glad Troy Cerny is here, our ice arena manager, to hear that, and great to have those partnerships that you've built. So thank you.
Item number 5, call on any resident that would like to come forward and speak on an item not on the agenda. Do please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and welcome. Seeing none, we would move forward. Item number 6 then, business removed from consent, there was none. Item number 7A, public hearing. Councilor Lehman,
Make a motion to open a public hearing.
A second.
I have a motion to open the public hearing in a second from Councilor Brennan. Further discussion? Discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing is now open. Staff will present. Michael.
Mayor and Council, this is the vacation of public drainage and utility easements at Canterbury Park 7th Edition. So this is the parcel in question. This is Eagle Creek down here. This will be the new Shenandoah Drive that will come along the edge. So this is why we're doing this. This currently, it reads as one parcel. You'll see in a second, it's really not. And so what we're trying to do is clean this easement up. Before, in August, you'll see this, which is the new alignment for Shenandoah, a new city street cutting through the parcel, and then a new parcel created down here. So we're removing basically all the drainage and utility easement lines that exist today so we can create a new parcel. That's going to the Planning Commission in July, and you'll see it in August.
Questions of staff? So your red line, excuse me, that indicates that the whole easement all the way around the property is going to be vacated?
Mayor and Council, when they do their new preliminary and final plat for this parcel, it'll all be put back in place. But
Okay.
since now it's an odd-shaped parcel, it was decided it was just easier to clean up everything and have them record new easements.
Councilor Lehman?
Question, where's the existing easements on the site?
The red line that you see on the slide, those are the existing easements.
Okay, and is there anything in any of them easements?
Mayor and Council, no. This is an undeveloped parcel, so when you see this one, this will have all the new drainage and utility easements, including along the new street.
Okay, the line that's going through this, north to south.
That's a parcel line that'll be
Okay.
gotten rid of.
All right. So there's nothing has to be moved.
No, sir.
No utilities in there, right?
Mayor and Council, no.
Yep. Further questions of staff? Further questions of staff?
Just
Councilor Lehman?
one more clarification. I'm pretty sure I read this right, but one of the conditions say that the plat will be required to donate any easements needed for the development.
That's standard in all of our plats, and you can see on the proposed plat that you'll be seeing later. So this is the new road alignment shown on this, and so all of this will be set aside as part of that new plat, along with this brand-new street that'll be going through here.
All right. And we'll see this down the line. Okay.
Mayor and Council, it's going to July 11th because of the 4th of July. It gets pushed off, so you won't see it until the first meeting in August.
Other questions of staff? Other questions of staff? If not, Michael, thank you very much. Good evening. This is a public hearing on this vacation. Anybody else, the public, like to come forward and make comment on this? Public hearing. Going once, going twice. Seeing none. Counselors,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Contreras. Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. Counselor Whiting,
Make a motion to approve resolution number R2019-066, a resolution approving the vacation of public drainage and utility easements for property within Lot 1, Block 3 of Canterbury Park 7th Edition, located north of Eagle Creek Boulevard, south of Shenandoah Drive, and west of Veerling Drive at 12th Avenue East. Condition that the applicant provides the recommended easements to the public as referred by the city engineering, Spuck, and CenterPoint Energy.
I have a motion. Second by Counselor Lehman. Further discussion on the motion? Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you all. 8A1, Financial Review, May 2018. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Give me 1 second here. So tonight, we're going to look at the May 2019 financial report. Looking at the general fund, I mean, we've had a phenomenal year on that end of it. It's not a lot of anything new that we haven't seen up to this point in the year. Just quickly looking at your revenues, your total revenues to date are, I'm sorry, your year to date are $5.6 million. Well, we haven't received our second half or our first half tax payment yet. That is actually scheduled to come into our bank account tomorrow. So this will look a lot different at the end of June at that point. But we are at, as you can see, every one of these line items, licenses and permits, again, another strong month, $670,000 of revenue coming in. We do go through a lot of our liquor license renewals happen in May and June timeframe, so we do have a spike in there as well too, but we did have strong permits again for the month of May. You can see we're sitting at $2.3 million for licenses and permits for the entire year, and we only budgeted $1.8 million. And kind of the remarkable number, if you look at last year to date, it was $900,000, and we're sitting at $2.3 million. So it's been a strong year. We want to continue that into the foreseeable future when we start preparing the next year's budgets as well too. Intergovernmental revenue, there again, very similar to what it was this same time last year. Those are kind of cyclical on some of those payments, and so we'll see those coming in as the year progresses. Charges for services, there again, kind of right in line with everything we need. It's sitting at 45%, and a lot of that is your community center charges for services, any of those types of fee services. And then your miscellaneous revenue as well is up to just about 100% of that budget, and a lot of that is due to the interest income throughout for the year. Interest rates have been strong and are still strong. They're kind of trending down just a little bit lately, but they have been higher than what we have seen in the past couple of years. So we're starting to see some real money on the interest side of it, interest revenue side of things. So any questions on the revenue?
Questions on the rev? If not, continue.
Expenditure side gets a little bit more, there isn't a lot of activity. There's a couple red arrows. This was brought up, I think, last time. The finance line item there is that it has a red arrow at 60%.
Number 15.
It is, yep, Department 15. Finance Department just paid our annual payment to Scott County for assessing services, which is about $300,000, I believe it is, $290,000. So that's a big hit to our budget at that point in time. So this would expect this to come in line as the year progresses, similar to some other departments we see that have big expenditures at the first part of the year. So natural resources, the other one that has a red arrow, that one has we had a tree trimming contract at the beginning of the year, and it's a pretty small budget, so having an expenditure in place there kind of really affects it percentage-wise.
We've seen that every year, though, at this time of the year, correct?
Yeah, I believe last year we didn't do that contract, and so we had a positive variance, and then we ended up doing that contract in the winter this year of 2019. So overall, your expenditures are at 39% of budget, which is good. 41% is kind of that key mark right at this point in time for the end of May. Everything's on the up and up on the general fund side of things, so nothing to.
No concerns from the finance department?
No concerns from the finance department at this point, so.
Questions on the expenses? expenditures. Thank you.
As we look at the community center, ice arena, Sand Venture. Sand Venture, obviously that's operation is just getting underway, just started here within the last week or so. So those expenditures and revenues we'll see kind of spike now through our busy season at that point in time. So nothing abnormal at that point in time. Ice arena revenues were about $38,000 higher than the same point last year, or $39,000 it looks like. 39.6. I'm sorry, that's the expenditure side of it. Yeah, they're actually closer to $40,000 and more revenue. You do have additional expenditures, about $38,000. There was a purchase of a floor scrubber for about $11,000 earlier in April, I believe it was. That's in conclusion with, we're going to end the cleaning contract there and bring those services in-house, so we'll realize the savings of that, of canceling that contract, and I believe that canceled probably June 15th, I believe it was. Or even yesterday. So we'll start realizing the savings from not having that outside contract for cleaning services, and we're just doing that in-house from here, so.
Counselor Lehman has a question.
The wages and benefits under Sand Venture, last year, May year-to-date, 6,807. This year, same time frame, it's a little over triple. What's changed?
We have a pool manager. Part of her time is kind of throughout the year is getting ready for that Sand Venture pool, so she charges some of her time to there. Some of our facilities people in preparation to get that ready charge their time to that as well. So I think we had a lapse in last year. I think we had a vacancy at the early part of the year. I think Caitlin, our pool manager, wasn't in place at that point in time, so.
She didn't come in until August.
Okay.
You didn't get here till August. Okay, continue.
So looking at the community center revenues, we're at $530,000 through the end of May, which is an increase of about $60,000 over last year. About and that $530,000 represents 55% of the revenue budget. So if we look at that 41% is our indicator, we're at 55%. So that's a good positive sign at this point in time. Wages and benefits are about $57,000 more than the same time last year. $35,000 of that is due to having a full part-time staff. Last year at the beginning of the year, we were having some troubles hiring enough part-time staff. This year we've been fully operational, even at the community center.
That include like lifeguards?
for
We were
lifeguards,
Struggling last year
yeah.
with lifeguards.
Lots of fitness staff.
And,
We
yeah,
didn't have a full fitness staff until probably September.
all right.
And some of the operating expenditure increases are related to some of the increases in the rent charges that we charge for the building internal service fund, and then some other additional operating expenditure increases as well too, so.
Counselor Lehman?
The, looks like across the board, the operational expenses are up 21% or higher in all of the areas. Do we know what percentage of that 21% is the building rental charge change?
12 of the 21?
So 12 of the 21, so we've got 19% or 9% per year increase?
But there's been changes in staffing too.
Well, that's in wages, I would think.
Yeah,
That would be in wages and benefits, not in the operations line.
yeah. And I think we're still fine tuning some of that stuff as well too, and.
Okay. I'm gonna keep a rolling check on that, because now the building rent is gonna be in there.
Yeah.
We know what that is, so I'd be curious just to keep an eye on the operational expense side to see what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. If you look at the total community center budget, they're right at the expenditure side of it, they're at 42%. So they're right in line with that 41% kind of target as well too. So it's in line with what we budgeted. It may be a little higher than what it was last year, but that's kind of a combination of expanded services and additional programming and things like that, add additional costs in there, but also generate additional revenues as well, so. And if you look at the deferred revenue, that, there again, then that number is very similar to what it was at this point in time last year, so.
That number there is holding steady or increasing?
It fluctuates from month to month a little bit, but seeing that it's a
Depending on when
small
the
variance
rush
in
for
there.
memberships was?
Yep, so those are annual memberships that we haven't earned yet.
Monthly, right?
Yep.
Counselor Lehman?
Mayor, it dawned on me that the operational expenditures, if you're doing more, parties or whatever, you're buying more supplies, that's going into the operational expenditure line, but then you're recouping it on the revenue side.
That's the whole idea.
So that's gonna have to be equated in there somehow.
And that's where you see the revenues at the community center are $60,000 greater than they were last year.
Yep.
And obviously you got wages and benefits of 56 higher than last year and 54, but we're still budgeting the whole system there as well too. And if
Right.
it's in line with the budget, that's kind of what we expected to be.
I'm trying to figure out a way to pull out just the overall operational expense without the operational cost of doing additional things and then the additional revenue that offsets it, to see the true actual operational cost, excluding all these things that are neutral.
What do you want? Oh,
Well, if you go buy a bunch of things for birthday parties or something, and that goes into an operational expenditure, then you receive the payment for the room.
Right.
That goes into revenue,
right. And you
So-
hope that offsets.
so you hope that offsets. So when you remove that from the equation, what is the actual operational
Just
cost?
to run it.
Run it, yeah. Not including wages and benefits, because that's a separate line. I don't know.
All right, other questions?
And there are a lot of line items that make up the operational expenditures. Obviously, that we're rolling it up into a high level, so you can see it at that level, but there's a couple dozen line items that obviously and there's subcategories under there that make up those, so.
So if we know it's 9%, and then when you start removing operational expenses for services rendered, reimbursed through revenue, probably 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there maybe. Is that a good number? Maybe.
All right. More questions? More questions?
That's all I have.
If there's no more further questions? Darren, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving ahead then to 8B1, Memorandum of Understanding with Minnesota State University. Michael, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is a draft memorandum. It'll be fine-tuned as we get through the process, but the Minnesota State has agreed that as it goes through that process, we'll adjust basically the task, but this is kind of their first blush. And so during the month of July, there'll be a meeting with the SMSC, the school district, and the county to talk about kind of art of the possible. And then hopefully in August, there'll be a meeting with all of the business leaders in the community with the university. And they have rolled out a lot of staff. I think we have 3 or 4 staff members coming to the next meeting. And I'm sure for the corporate meeting, we'll have as many. But this is kind of their standard beginning MOU. And we're asking for the flexibility to amend it as we get into the process. Also, we're waiting to hear from the federal EDA on our grant so we can begin the feasibility study. As part of that, they'll be heavily engaged with the consultant on fleshing out what's really needed in the community.
Okay. So this is kind of a memorandum of understanding, no money on their part, just be able to walk and talk and hold hands together as we move this forward, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got that. Counselor Lehman?
There's a consultant that's going to be hired, so there is some cost on our behalf.
I see that.
Question I had is, it says closed cohort contracts. What does that mean?
So Mayor and Council, that's if, let's just use an example, Emerson wanted to have a very specific group of people go through something, you could not join that course. That would be paid for by Emerson. So that's a closed cohort where it's very specifically designed for a company or a business.
Okay, and would they'd be paying for it?
Yes, sir.
Other questions on this? As we walk down this aisle path for the Innovation Center, I think from what I've heard around the community, and at least in Scott County, this is gaining momentum and a lot of interest, and of course, at this level, a lot of questions, which it should be. But I think training, collaboration, innovation, I think is all real important, and to have an opportunity to see if it can be right here in Shakopee would be great.
And Mayor and Council, we've heard from just about everyone in Scott County that this is a huge need. We heard it beginning in the 2040 comp plan process, and then again through the Scale Initiative. And so I think this is a big first step so that now we have a partner kind of at the table, and we're going to see over the next year what the art of the possible is to serve those needs.
Councilor Whiting?
As you said, this is the beginning. It's preliminary stages. We've talked about this at this city council, and we've talked about it at scale for many years. The county wants to be part of it. Now Minnesota State Mankato wants to be part of the discussion, so I think this is great moving forward. We still got a lot of moving pieces, and that grant money hasn't come in yet, but we're going in the right direction, so.
Other question, comment? Councilor Lehman?
I'm surprised Scott County isn't involved in this, or is it too early and that might happen later?
Mayor and Council, again, it's too early, and we are the recipient of the grant money for the study. You're providing some, the CDA is providing some, hopefully the federal government's providing some, so there really is only one person that can kind of drive the boat. So the university wanted one single point of contact since we're kind of coordinating the whole project, and that's where we're at.
I don't think there's anything like this in Scott County, is there?
No.
I don't think there is.
That's that's part of it, even the discussion at the scale level, the county level, no post-education area in Scott County.
Hennepin's got their Hennepin Tech, and
Right.
Dakota's got Dakota Tech, and everybody around us has
Right.
been doing it for years. We're kind of lagging in this department.
And I think that our business community wants it. We're seeing that, with the academies at the high school, they all want the next step. A place to innovate, place to learn, collaborate, and I think you're right, this is a first step. I think later down the line, continue to gain momentum, you will see partners, Scott County, Shakopee, Minnewacan, Sioux community, maybe some businesses. I think this will gain partnerships, but we're kind of the first step is the city with Mankato State. Further questions of staff? If not, Councilor Brennan?
I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number R 2019-067 to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Minnesota State University Mankato to explore partnership and training opportunities.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Councilor Contreras. Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Let's move ahead then to the next item, 8B2, contract for Tyler Technologies. Michael, good to see you. Welcome back.
Mayor and Council, this is basically the startup and the cost for next year for implementing a new permitting software. So it would do everything you saw under licenses, also under the building permit and planning divisions. We currently are with Logis. I think we've tried our hardest to move their software along, and they are many years away from where it needs to be able to serve our community. So working with the IT staff and the user group, we interviewed a lot of companies. This company was heads and shoulders above the rest. They're a very large company with a huge support group, and the software is very keeping kind of what we need, and it's also pretty user-friendly. And the biggest issue we've had right now is we have a lot of large permits, as you can see from our permit revenues. So right now, the permits go into our system, and then they wait because we have to wait for either a wire transfer or someone to bring the check by. They have it set up so everything will be done electronically. So all checks, credit cards, everything will be processed through one portal. So right now, we're basically running 2 systems. This will be one system. And it'll also be tied into all of our people in the field, so they will be equipped with iPads, so our inspectors in the field will be able to deliver instant inspections to people. They'll know whether they pass or fail. And it also allows photo documentation, so all of that rolls back into our storage system. So 5 years from now, if someone asks about something, we'll be able to see the notes from the inspection along with photographs. That's something we cannot do right now.
Questions of staff? Counselor Whiting?
When people change their software programs, there's a lot of educational back and forth, and I know there's a section in here, 3.5 on, looks like page 12, talks about education. What, from your sense of discussions with Tyler, what kind of backing are they going to have for this educational process? It talks about setting up a classroom setting, and I know we have a space upstairs. This isn't going to be one of our public rooms that we're going to set aside for this, is it?
So Mayor and Council, that's mostly to get staff up to speed. So this will be a cross-platform, cross-departmental process that we currently do not have. It'll be all integrated. So the licensing, all those liquor license and everything now will come through, which is kind of what we wanted all along, through the permit coordinators, as also will all the right-of-way permits. Everything will be done electronically now, and so all those payments and everything will
So
come
I
through
get-
one portal. So they have something called Tyler University, which they will roll out to our staff. And right now, 99.9% of the building permits and planning applications come through electronically. So from the user side, there will be no change of experience, except it'll be easier. Because right now, you're dealing with 2 portals as a user. Now there'll be 1. The other big change is currently we're using Project Docs, which is a standalone program. This allows an applicant to upload all of their documents, whether it's license material, background check information, whatever it is, drawings, all at the same time as they're applying. Right now, that's a 2-step, 2 different portal process, and I can tell you that's 90% of the questions that our staff have to walk through people that, so you may have applied for it over here, but you really didn't because you have to go to this other portal now to upload everything. This will be seamless, and it's switching to a product called Bluebeam, which is probably 95% of the firms out there use that product today. So from a user standpoint, it's going to be a lot easier for them because they already use that software.
So I guess my question is kind of 2-part. Do we feel that we have the proper education for our staff from Tyler? And is that place where we're going to train our employees separated from this public spaces that we that we're constantly being rented for, used for other purposes?
Mayor and Council, yes to both. So we did this when we switched over to I call it the first kind of drug, which was the going to paperless through Project Docs. We had to have training for that. This is the same kind of process. I think since most of the staff have been through it, it'll just be kind of adjusting that's actually easier and faster this way. I know a lot of the engineering staff are excited because Bluebeam is everything. It's only used in the engineering world right now. That's what they're all using. So I think from a staff standpoint, they're all used to using electronic review. So the learning curve is going to be a lot less. I think from the user standpoint, it's going to be much easier because 1 portal instead of 2 right now. You won't have to wire Darren money, which is what we're having to go through right now. You'll be able to do it all online. So it'll be able to do ACHs. I think the other thing it's going to do is drive down our expenses. Right now, we're paying a pretty hefty credit card charge for online transactions because people can't do checks. I think we're going to see a lot more people switch over to checks. And right now, you pay a much higher fee if you don't collect name, address, the 3-digit number in the back, all those things. So our current vendor doesn't want to have to deal with all that. We can set that up our own. So when the more information you collect, the less chance there is for fraud. So when we do that, it'll lower our actual credit card transaction fee. So right now we're paying kind of top of the chart. It'll lower that fee. So overall, it's going to save us money.
And we will be able to do checks, which are significantly cheaper to process than credit cards.
Yes, checks are significantly cheaper.
Counselor Lehman?
Mayor, I have a question. It says confidential on this information. Am I allowed to share some of this information, Mr. Thompson?
It's out on the web, council member, so
It's public, it's part of the agenda.
Okay.
I think,
Page 2, and this goes to Counselor Whiting's thoughts. When we look at we see the reoccurring fees, 117,000 a year, but then we have the one-time fees, and I'm kind of focused on the one-time fees, specifically the project management services and professional implementation services. So they're looking at 630 hours worth of professional implementation services. That's a lot of hours. I'm assuming that these folks are basically going to be holding hands with the people that are using it.
so Mayor and Council, the other big piece here is, so we use Laserfish kind of as our backup for everything. So they're going to structure it so that when this software is done or process is over, all that data will roll over into our Laserfish. So that's some of the time. The other big issue is to take all of the ages of information we currently have that's with Logis and transfer that over to this software so we keep all that permit history. So it's not a separate document. So that's another big thing. The other thing is this isn't just out of the box plug and play. It's really going to be designed to kind of best practices that we currently use and best practices that they've seen at their thousands of other clients. So there are some things that we may be doing now that they may actually have a better flow process to that they'll be programming into our software.
Okay, that's listed separately as data conversion services. So I was kind of focused on the professional implementation services and project management services, which are pretty expensive. I'm assuming them are one-time. And the professional implementation services and the project management services, can you tell me what the difference is between the two?
So there are people that actually will manage our project to make sure it stays on time. And there are other people that'll be the boots on the ground here doing the implementation. So,
The high-hour one would be the ones on location, working with each
yep.
thing.
So the way they structure this, so we have a lot of things kind of in that permit licensing bucket. So they will design those processes, work with the staff that use them now, and make sure it's flowing the right direction. I think we had a lot of issues with our current software where we're having to do a certain process because it's the way the software was designed 20 years ago. That will change, and I think it'll be a little bit more thoughtful in the way it's done this time.
Then I had a last question, Mayor. The reoccurring fees, as our computer systems change and you go from Windows whatever to Windows something else or whatever, does that yearly reoccurring fee include updating their system to match whatever operating system we use in the future?
So Mayor and Council, this is software as a service, so it's actually not going to be based here. That's one of the big benefits of this. It's going to be cloud-based. So when they do an update, there's nothing to update. It'll be in the cloud. So all you'll really be doing is accessing through a window browser, so either Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever, into their system. And from a client standpoint, it'll look like they're on our website, but it won't be on our website. It'll be on their servers.
Okay, but any updates is included in the reoccurring fees?
That's correct. So that's an annual fee that includes whatever updates they have to make on a weekly, monthly. The other benefit will serve is since they have such a wide client base, certain clients say, I want this to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm willing to pay for it. Well, when that's done, they roll it out to everybody as part of an update.
Can I kind of dovetail on Counselor Lehman's questions? To me, like Logis was the industry standard for a long time. And now I see a new player and that happens, and I understand that. Are these fees any greater or less than Logis? And are we gonna, conversely, are we gonna save any money stepping out of Logis or consolidating in a smaller aspect of Logis?
I'll say this. We pay about $75,000. It's hard to tell exactly how much we pay because it's built into other fees. But we pay about $75,000 a year right now to Logis, but we're also paying a much higher credit card fee. And remember, it's 2 portals. For the $116,000, we're going to 1 portal, and our goal is to get that credit card fee that the city pays right now lowered. I think a lot of cities, I won't say are leaving Logis, but are looking at other alternatives. And think Mr. Nelson can kind of address, he actually had a meeting today where they talked about this.
Darren,
Mr.
comment?
Mayor, council members, I was actually at Logis today for a finance officer group meeting, and we are talking about their preliminary budget, and the conversation that came up was about their current permitting application system, the PIM system that they call it. And there was at least 3 other cities that were withdrawing from that PIMS application, which in the end just makes the cost then greater for all the members that are currently still in it, because the pie is still the pie, and now it's just bigger pieces of the pie for the members that are still there. And they talked about a little bit of the responsiveness and that they're trying to get more on the cutting edge, but really this is a homegrown application that they've built in-house, when out in the world, this application is done by, they got so much more research and power behind it, it can be more cutting edge. And that Logis application just isn't going to be there, and they're not going to have the horsepower to get it to where it needs to be anytime soon, so.
Darren, is this software going to make us more efficient and more effective?
When I was in my previous city, I had implemented Tyler Technologies for our financial and utility billing systems, and the conversion process was, it's a tough conversion for a financial system and utility billing, and it's one of those things you don't just want to do once, but they made it very workable and easy, and we came out a much better, much more efficient operation on the end of it. And really, you have to sign off on every step of the conversion process. So you have to be comfortable with where you're at for training, where you're at for, your data converting over, every step along the way. So it was very professional, and they're a top-notch company in my opinion. So.
And Mayor and Council, just to give you an idea, so I've been here going on 3 years, and we were promised about 3 years ago that we would have real-time scheduling that would occur in PIMS, and that ACHs, so your ability to do a check online, was just around the corner. Well, we never seem to be able to turn the corner. That's already built into this, so I think one of the huge benefits right now is staff spends a lot of time scheduling inspections with people on the phone. They're going to be able to go online, so you'll be able to submit your permit, get your approvals online, and then schedule your inspections online. And unlike other cities where that's a week, we typically run 24 to 48 hours on an inspection because we've got a pretty robust staff right now. So I think from a customer service standpoint, it's going to be even more seamless and much more user-friendly.
Counselor Lehman?
The discussion makes me come up with 3 more questions, Mayor. Will our Logis system that we currently use be backed up prior to all this integration, just in case something goes wrong?
Yes.
Okay? And then the one aspect that we're not talking about, that we should, is the ease of the client or customer on their end. So if somebody logs into building permits, e-permits, and wants to get a building permit and do all this stuff, this is supposed to make it much easier on their end and on our end.
That's correct. It'll be seamless, which I can tell you right now it is not.
Right. So I think we need to keep that in the back of our minds, because we're ultimately trying to get at that customer service aspect at a higher level, and that is a goal. So that's good that it's going to do that.
Coming into the system, but then I'm trying to ask, our system vertically, are we going to get more efficient and better? And I heard
Right.
at least the answer on that.
And then
I think our current system is always backed up every day, I believe, off-site, so that is good too. So
Then the last question I had of my 3 was somebody that doesn't have internet access, old school grandpa, are they still going to be able to walk into City Hall and say, gee, I want to take out a permit for a garage or something?
So Mayor and Council, I will say probably 99%, even grandpa, have internet access now, because you would be surprised. So we get notified of when every permit comes in. We get a vast majority of our permits between probably 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So people are sitting at home, or contractors. It's amazing to see. When you come in, you can see the times they're coming in. So most people are doing it at home. If you have a drawing or whatever, it's the same way it'll be done today. We have a terminal up front. You go set up your account, you pay on there. And if you don't have a drawing that's electronic, our staff scans it in and puts it in the system for you.
Counselor Whiting?
Let's talk about the system security. none of us up here are going to be, working with the system unless we are doing an addition or building onto our house, and we'll be looking at it from the outside. But how is the system as far as system security, so we don't have to have you telling us how our system was hacked someday?
So Mayor and Council, this system will not be here, so it is on their side. They are PCI compliant in all the federal requirements for processing. And as Mr. Nelson said, they do everything from prisons to airports. I mean, they're a pretty big company. I mean, to give you an idea, so Logis was talking about hiring 2 people. They have 40 people assigned just to this piece of software. So they have, this piece of software has, as Mr. Nelson said, a financial services side. It has a parks, I mean, it has every possible permutation because they've been around forever and they've bought other companies, and over the years they've integrated all into one system. So because of that, and in being in the cloud, it's multiple backups at other servers. So if a building blew up somewhere, it's been recorded somewhere else, and seamlessly you would never see that because it would switch over. I mean, they're a pretty robust company. They're considered kind of the Cadillac of service providers. We looked at the one that's probably just a little bit above them, and they were about $450,000. And I can tell you, actually, the software was not as good. It was a little wonkier and a little kind of almost old school. And so we wanted to go with something that was absolutely user friendly, so that from the user side, it was a completely smooth experience. You would never know what was going on except your permit was approved or denied. I mean, one of the cool things that they've been able to do, which no one's been able to figure out how to do it, because I think of all their other software, is that in-field piece. So an inspector can go in the field, and now we'll have a checklist to say, I'm doing such and such a permit. Here's the 4 things I got to look at. I take a picture of it. In real time, that comes back to us and sends an email out to the customer to say, your permit's been cleared, and then in the car, they'll be able to print out an actual paper copy if someone needs a paper copy. So that's stuff, today they actually come back, have to upload all that information. This will all be in kind of real time. And if you're on the road and you schedule inspections and the inspector is sick, it knows that, and so it will notify everyone they have to adjust their path, and it will look at where people are scheduled and start moving inspections around, because it actually will look at from a GPS standpoint where the best path is to be able to save time. Wow. I mean, right now, we got people that drive 20, 30 minutes out, they come back here, then they're going that way. Now in the morning, it'll look at what's available and say, I'm giving you these 7 because it's the straightest and easiest path for you.
Mr. Reynolds, it seemed like you wanted to weigh in here.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the only thing I would say is that the one aspect that we have not talked about yet is the amount of time that our internal IT staff is involved trying to make our current system work better. And that's been a struggle for them for some time, and this obviously clears the deck for that as well.
In Mayor and Council, we basically have one IT person who's kind of dedicated to keep our current software up and running and has to deal technical issues, all of that, because we only have 1 or 2 people on the other side helping. Now we're going to have 40 people with a guaranteed, I think it's 24-hour, or they have a built into their contract turnaround time on issues. As Mr. Nelson said, they're so busy and they have so many clients under our current system, it can be weeks sometimes for us to get something resolved, and we have to do, IT staff has to do an internal workaround, which is not the best way to be doing stuff.
Counselor Lehman?
I'm not too concerned about somebody's plan for a garage getting hacked and getting out in public. It's basically public information.
You haven't seen my garage.
That's right.
More concerned about, the financial information of whether it's credit card information of a client,
Well,
or
that's what
if
it
it's
is.
the routing number and account numbers of city accounts and banks and stuff like that. But if it's city financial information, well, we just had a presentation on the month, that's public information. It's more of the private stuff that you don't want the bad people to get.
That's correct.
Now, if that does get breached on their cloud, is that their liability, or are we waiving their
I
liability?
think that's the million-dollar question for any company, I think, today, whether it's a utility company, a medical company, a retailer. It's kind of up to the credit card companies to all sort that out. They meet all of the most stringent federal standards for security and for PCI compliance, we would hope, given the size they are, that's one of the big things they spend a lot of money on, and that's one of the things, software as a service, that's one of the benefits we get. It's, none of it's here, it's all out there, and they have to meet all those federal standards from their own liability protection, and they're pretty stringent. We've had some vendors that cannot meet, for instance, the PCI compliance, because that is how your credit card data and checking data has got to be all encrypted certain ways so that it doesn't get out into the internet.
Any other comments of staff, questions of staff? You guys did a great job covering all the topics here and answering the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselors? Counselor Whiting?
I would make a motion to approve a contract with Tyler Technologies for an amount not to exceed $350,000. That includes an annual $116,000 service fee, and approve execution of various documents for software and service since it will be a cloud-based system.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Contreras. Further discussion, Counselor Lehman?
What's the timeline for implementation? 6 months?
So Mayor and Council, they typically say we would be ready the first quarter of 2020. Since we've already been through this process when we first went digital, our goal is to try and shrink that down and try and get it maybe in January or February. So that,
6 to 9 months, maybe?
yep.
Okay.
I mean, we're excited. This is going to be a big change, benefit for everybody.
Thank you. Motion on the table, further discussion? Discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next up, 9A, city bill list for our review. And if there's no questions, we would have 9B, liaison administration report. Counselor Brennan.
I went to the Scott County Government Center Improvement Project groundbreaking, which will be, the project will be supposedly completed in 2022. Mayor Mars did a great speech and presentation. I went to SCALE. The SCALE general meeting has been talking about SCALE and the focus of SCALE. Went to the regional training facility meeting for SCALE, and the three major things have been improved. There are new laundry, washer and dryers, the things on the roof. What do you call it?
Rooftop units?
HVAC? Air exchangers?
Nope. The roofing has
okay.
been completed, and the boilers have been removed. And there's a lot of things with the regional training facility. There is a presentation that was made by Scott County, and what they are looking at is to see if the regional training facility would be appropriate for a homeless facility, and be sharing that facility with the regional training facility. It's just the beginning talks about it, so there's a lot more information that has to come forward. I went to the LLE housing, Live, Learn, and Earn housing meeting, and that discussion was on the Harstead lawsuit and the fees that are affecting Prior Lake, and then how fees affect housing in general. And I went to the chamber luncheon the other day and learned about the science of opioid addiction and the research that's happening at the U of M. And this weekend I went to the Big Taste of Fun, and once again the JCs have done a great job in putting things together, and as well the Parks and Recs department. And that's all I got.
You've been busy. Thank you for that great update. Counselor Lehman.
Last night I attended the Shakopee Utilities Commission meeting, and a couple of notes here. The email that was sent from the city, it was not received by Mokel, Yost, and Mayor. I told them if they want to give me their emails email their emails to me, I will forward them to our staff to make sure we've got them accurate. Don't know what the
Those
problem-
emails were pulled from the SPUC website
Right, right.
and delivered to the email that is on the SPUC website. So if they did not receive our email, they're probably not receiving a lot of emails.
And that they're looking at that side too, so I just said that I will.
But
do that.
I'll be more than happy to get that out first thing in the morning.
Let's see here, the Windermere pump house site is on schedule. There was 2 outages in Shakopee, 1 suicide squirrel, 1 suicide bird. And projects that they've got going on is the Government Center, Stagecoach, Shenandoah, Sayers and Flats, the Windermere, and the Doran. At some point, both the commission members kind of looked over some of that letter, and some of the questions are, why was the decision made in like '05 or something? They're kind of thinking and asking me at the meeting, would you bring that up? And I said, sure. To have our staff and their staff sit down and go over these questions, I certainly would support that, so.
I think, if I may, Counselor Lyman, it would be very beneficial probably to have a joint meeting so their staff can sit down, their commissioners can sit down, and we can go through those questions. And if they do not have the answers to the questions, we can kind of try to reconstruct what occurred.
As you know, it's our busiest time here in the city, and it's their busiest time, so if we're gonna do that, which is not a bad idea, we should probably do it when it's not the peak of the seasons for everybody.
Vacation season
Well, I mean,
busy
building
building
right now, I
season.
mean, city's going gangbusters, and so are they, electric and water
We're
and
talking
everything
about
else,
commission
so.
members, though.
Pardon me?
I think it's commission members we're
Well,
talking
and
about,
staff.
yeah. Well,
And I will say that, it's pretty obvious that they have long-term staff that have been here a lot longer than the majority of my staff, our staff have been here.
Right.
They certainly should have the background to determine the decisions that they made, not us, that they made.
Okay.
Right. I can go back to '05 on some of the decisions I made here, well, not here, but in another building, and not sure I can remember all of them and what my rationale might have been. But meeting minutes might brush it up. That's all I have, Mayor.
I see on the agenda that the Lions donation of a splash pad was before that board last night.
Yep.
What was action on that?
A lot of the information that was the first time they saw some of this stuff was either in the paper or the Lions were there. So they learned about the possibility of, trying to get this right, because it's first I knew about it was last night, was the water line from the current swim pool is roughly, 200 or 400 feet to the location of where they're looking at the splash pad, trying to get water to it is one issue. But then the other issue is, how do you reuse the water? You don't want to have a reuse system to where it's used water being reused on people.
That's correct.
And nobody seems to know what the health standards from the state or whoever controls that is on a mister compared to a, bath type situation or whatever. And then there's the issue of, one thing that was brought up that I thought was kind of interesting actually was the city purchases more than 10,000 gallons per month during the operational time of Sand Venture to top off the evaporation of the pool. And that water is put into the chlorine system, whatever they call it.
Chlorinated.
or filter
Whatever
system,
that
yeah.
pump system is, into there and chlorinated and do whatever, and then put into the pool to top it off. Since that amount is more than what the splash pad uses, there would be no impact if the captured water, if you could capture the water from the splash pad, pipe it to the chlorinator center, and use it to put it in a pool, it would actually save the water that the city's purchasing to put it in a pool, and it wouldn't have an impact on the total system. So therefore, it would substantially reduce any fees.
So
Mr. Reynolds has got his hand
Mr. Reynolds, I apologize.
Yeah, we did check on that. That is absolutely positively not allowed.
Okay.
So all of the issues that you have outlined, Counselor Lehman, are solvable issues. The one issue that is not solvable is $211,000 to connect a pipe. And I believe last night they essentially said, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the city was going to be responsible for that fee.
Well, my understanding is the current policy by resolution that they have on the books now says that the responsibility goes with the property owner, and we happen to be the property owner of that park.
And that kills the park.
That's their policy.
Did the Lions Club, of course, I just saw the agenda. I didn't see if there was a packet item. I didn't click on that. But was there a Lions Club make a presentation and ask for a waiver of that fee?
They made a presentation. They basically said they understood where everybody's position is because basically the amount of water, 1 million gallons, almost 1 million per season, is about the equivalent of 40 houses.
But we're going to pay for that water. The issue is the fee to connect two pipes together.
Well, the issue in a larger sense is if you're gonna build something anywhere in the city and it's gonna utilize 1 million gallons of water per year, that million and that building's million and that building's million and that building's million pretty soon add up to some real big water usage.
And some real big fees.
Water usage, though.
And then you have to produce that water, so now you have
Which is
to-
why you charge for the water.
You know, I'm not gonna sit here
okay, I
and
know,
argue about this, I'm telling you what was discussed.
Right, and that's fine.
And I don't have a personal position on it. I'm saying that in their totality of their policies, they're looking at when various uses come on board and there's, let's see, there's 10 uses and they're all 1 million gallons apiece, and 10 million gallons of water has to come from somewhere.
Right.
Which
No.
means there's gonna be wells and there's gonna be piping and pumps and that moves it, and storage capacity that creates pressures. And these things cost money. So, they've got a policy and a formula that does these things. $200,000 is ridiculous for a splash pad, I agree. But I also think it's ridiculous that something that puts a mist up in the air uses so much water. So,
Well, it's a time thing. I mean, we look at the benefit and what is good for the community good, and did you speak in possible opportunity of waiving that fee, or were you a participant, or did you say that this is a great opportunity? And I'm not trying to debate you, I'm just trying to
Right.
ask.
well, they ultimately have to make their decisions.
That's correct.
But, I asked questions and participated as far as getting an understanding of, moving water or treating water, or one of the options I think that was discussed was reclaiming the water using some kind of a UV system with extra pumps to pump it back in and stuff like that. And it's maintenance heavy and just, it's not probably very reliable or, and costs as much as.
No,
hooking up, so.
I don't think that the water usage aspect of it is the real question. I've done this 10 times in my mind. Max use, 4 or 5 months, push button, the gallons, I've seen the numbers, about $3,800 worth of water. Compared to your home or an apartment building or a bigger building. But what really caught me, and I did sit on that board for a long time, but when we had another applicant for Willie McCoy's in here, which is a full-service restaurant with how many employees, how many seats, that's a restaurant. They have restrooms, they're gonna be doing dishes, the water usage and connected and impact of that. And the fee was just, I think, $235,000, I think, about. And they were asking for for a waiver reduction of some type for a high-impact use situation. And then I turn around and look at a splash pad that is a quarter of this room that's gonna be used 4 or 5 months a year, that's activated by a push button. We're not talking about reusing the water. The water fee per 1,000 gallons will be taken care of. But to me, the impact of a small seasonal splash pad fee equal, the fee to connect is equal as a full-service restaurant, just caught me. And I thought about the public good and the community benefit of an open, free splash pad. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to go in a restaurant and buy a cheeseburger. The use of for our community as a whole would have some sort of weight with the board. So,
Yeah, and I think everybody agrees with that. I think what I heard from at least a couple of commissioners was that it would be nice for them to at least have all the information. And one of the case in point would be, if they waive all the fees right now tonight, what are the other costs that may not be known to be borne by the Lions Group?
right.
Because even if you just waived all the fees and then find out that there's another $100,000 needed to do X, Y, and Z, what does that do to them?
Lions
We
would be
really
worried
need to
about
get
that, right.
totality of this whole situation in front of everybody, so everybody knows what's going on. And their goal is to have resolution together by the next meeting. I think that was June 1st, wasn't it? Or July 1st?
In 2 weeks or
July
two-
1st, I mean. And I don't know if they're planning on some kind of a waiver or whatever, or what the plan is, but I know that they're, want to have a resolution to it, and they want to gather as much information as they can. I got the sense that they wanted to get more information on what the city's proposing with the Lions, as far as what's been discussed with Mr. Tobin on site, and the J.C.'s and the city and up at the pool, and kind of know all these things. There was a little bit of a discussion about some future plan for that area of a major water park in the future, with the city, I guess.
And where would that come from?
I don't know. I don't know. I think the Lions might have brought that up. So, then what they talked about, what's actually available, a 2-inch line coming out of the
Wherever it comes from.
the swimming pool isn't going to be enough for this use.
Right.
So another line, and where is that going to come from? And does it have to be under frost line, or can it be, Spuck made it pretty clear, they can put the pipes in the ground at no charge and donate that, no problem. That's easy, as long as they're not really deep. They can put up to 3 lines in with their in-home trenching and stuff. If it's something that's going to be seasonal, or it can be blown out and stuff, that's one thing. If it's
Exactly.
if it's going to freeze, it's
Or
going
it's
to be another
year-round
thing.
and,
The timer on the push button instead of a minute and a half. The other question that came up was the actual numbers that were provided by
the Lions
the
and
proposer.
The owner of the company.
Yes, that company, Aqua something. When they came up with this estimate, they're assuming a minute and a half for each button push, so many per hour. It's almost running full-time.
That's
And is that really an accurate number? Because it's probably not an accurate number. It's probably more like maybe half of that. And then the next question is, are the actual Mr. heads, like you can buy a regular shower head for your shower, or you can get the water conservation shower heads, are them actual Mr. heads? I mean, granted, it was a long time ago, but when I played in the Mister, when I was a kid, I didn't care if it was downpouring on me or if I was just getting wet.
Oh, right.
If you pushed a button and all these things are going
And I got
off,
wet and it was cold
and you
and
got a
refreshing.
mist going on and you enjoyed yourself, that's great. Obviously, you're not going to want somebody pushing a button in the dark and slipping all over.
I
and
think
falling
a
down.
lot of these questions, again, get into the water usage, and I really don't think in the big picture that's part of it. It's a water connection fee, but
Well-
we will see what more information can be gathered and go down that line. I appreciate the update. And I know we discussed your SPUC liaison. Did you have more?
I know, that's it.
All right. Counselor, thank you very much. I just had a couple items. I've been traveling the country, but I went to the county groundbreaking a week or so ago, and that was great. They're starting on their big expansion, and there'll be some disruption in our community around that area, but, you know, I think that's going to go well. Yesterday, attended the bond rating meeting update with city staff. That was a pretty thorough meeting with S&P, and toured our community. I thought that went very well. Today, I spoke at the Shakopee Chamber leadership class that they have every year, done it every couple of years. They have a group in a leadership class, and today was Government Day, I think, as they call it, and so I sat in on a panel with some Senator Pratt and Representative Tafke, and so that was pretty good. Outside of that, I'll just make a comment. I just traveled from Atlanta to Duluth, Minnesota. I traveled through a lot of states in a U-Haul, which was fun, with a couple family members, and we talk about workforce shortage, housing shortages, transportation, congestion, road infrastructure. We have it pretty good here in Minnesota and specifically in Shakopee. Obviously, I'm traveling through some metropolitan cities, but the congestion was quite heavy at way different times. I think we have great roads in our community, but I think some of the issues that we talk about, we're not unique. These issues are all over our country, and their leaders, just like us, are trying to solve them and work on the ones we can. So really helps put it in perspective, so I thought I would just mention that. That's all I have. Counselor Whiting.
I have nothing to report. The Main Street meeting is tomorrow.
All right.
Couple of
Councilor
things, sorry. Couple of things for me. June 5th, I attended the Scott County groundbreaking. June 10th, I attended the liaison for the school board. And starting June 24th, community members may receive a call asking to participate in a survey about Shakopee Public Schools. So we encourage everyone who receives that call to participate in an effort to improve how our schools are serving our community. And then last, was it Saturday, June 15th, I attended the Big Taste of Fun, and mainly the Taste of Shakopee. And that was amazing. I had the pulled pork sandwiches by the VFW, and those were delicious. And shout out to the best dish, who was Bravi's, I think, restaurant, was the roasted corns. Those were really good.
Were you now in the big day of fun? And we had a bike and a taste and all of it combined.
splash pad.
I know in the last couple of years, we've had a city council dunk tank, and I was out of town. Did you take part in that?
No, I didn't do that. Sorry. Next time. That's
Thank you.
it.
Thank you for your report, Councilor Contreras. Mr. Reynolds, administration report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Tomorrow morning is the annual Special Olympics Torch Run. I will not be running this year. I will be hopefully walking maybe 400 yards or so, and then I'm going to make someone drive me around. But it starts at 9, I believe, and you can come in and pay, I think the fee is $25, and you can run, walk, bike. It benefits the Special Olympics. We'll have some Special Olympians here with us, as well as the actual torch. And if you want to, we'll let you run with the torch for a while, and you can get some photos of that as well. So again, that's tomorrow morning at the police department. Looking forward to that. In the past week, we have put in for the 2020 state bonding application. We put in 3 projects for that. The Highway 169 pedestrian overpass, the Riverfront Development Project, and then also the Innovation Center. Those were the 3 that we have asked the state to take a look at, and I have talked to Representative Tabke, and I meant to corner Senator Pratt this morning at the event, but I will get a hold of him relatively quickly too to start talking about those in the future and our ability to get money from the state to help us with those projects. As you know, the river's been flooded the last 3 months or so. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety has declared a state of emergency, Scott County being one of those. We are in the process of inspecting all of our stuff. If we find things that we need assistance with and have been damaged due to that flooding, we will make an application then. And I believe that application actually has to come through council as well oh, and by the way, the bonding stuff, we will have resolutions in support of that coming in the near future as well. But, yes, sir.
The damage from flood hit the riverfront trail that was under in Huber Park. That tends to get hit pretty hard. We probably need to take a look at that, and if it is damaged, get a hold of DNR and kind of work together. And
Yep. And Steve's had his people out there looking at that as the waters recede. We did have the S&P, hopefully AAA bond rating meeting yesterday. It went very well. We took them on a tour of the city so they could see what we were up to. I think it went very well. We will see. That's the first aspect of this process, and so we were happy to get them here and show off a bit. And that is all I have. Thank you very much.
Mr. Reynolds, thank you very much for your update. Item number 10, other business. Counselor Whiting.
You know, we've been talking about SPUC concerns and issues, and to me, it seems like we're the elected body, but some of our economic development has been kind of hijacked from a non-elected body. I would like to move to direct staff to bring back information to present to council and the public what it would take to bring SPUC back under city council control. And that's a motion.
I'll second.
What,
I think the action is to direct staff to bring it back, not actually take action unless it's on.
That's what I moved to direct staff to bring back information to present.
okay. Is there something specific that?
I don't know, I don't know the process, and I'm not sure, I'm sure it's somewhere in a form somewhere, but it might take a little bit of research. But I would like to know what that is and what the contract we've put together with them. And so I have it, I know, I can state it, and we all know it.
Okay. That's fine. I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. That was unanimous?
No, you're kind of catching me in the middle of this.
Well,
Bringing information back doesn't need a motion. We just direct staff to bring that information back. That's fine.
Okay. Motion passes. And, okay. Any other business before this board? Counselor Lehman?
I have one. I said I would bring this up. There was a video put out by the police department showing some division within our department. So the issue is sprinkled or glazed on the donuts.
Is it a poll?
But Chief
it's a
made a
video.
decision.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
Yeah, so, we could pass some kind of resolution saying that all the donuts have to have the sprinkles added to the glazing before the glazing dries. That should take away all of
Do
the,
you think we could get a unanimous vote?
I don't know, who likes sprinkles here? and who
Boy.
likes glazed?
I think Chief made that decision, and his decision is final.
So are you glazed or sprinkled?
I'm not jumping into that decision.
Non-binding?
I just thought I'd bring it up and have some fun. It was a great video, by the way.
was.
But now I'm glad.
It was awesome.
There
Good
was some
job.
argument there on donut day.
Public safety and sprinkles are glazed, all right.
And they told us it was bagels the last 5 years. Boy, did they pull the wool over our eyes.
If there is no other business before our city council, we move on to item 11. Counselor Contreras?
I make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, July 2nd, 2019 at 7 p.m.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn to July 2nd, 7 p.m. Further discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:20 p.m.
I know.